How is everybody feeling? Good? Nice lunch? Good dessert? Did anything come up in the lunchtime that you feel like, oh, this is a question still about suffering, the causes of suffering? I want to know more about that before we continue. Yes. When you say about the ripening karma, that means you were surprised when I talked about the ripening karma. I'm just going to say that for the people online. Emotions. So I didn't know that. Yes. The ripening of karma. The way that karma ripens is that we have certain experiences. They can be pleasant or unpleasant. And then because of the way that we are conditioned, we react to these feelings. Right? And with the reaction, we create new karma. So the feeling, the experience is the ripening, is the result of our actions. And then because we react to it, we create new karma, new causes for karma. You want me to go? A good thing to have. Well, we can't do anything about it. We can't. It's happening. In every moment of the mind, feelings arise. So karma will ripen. We can't change that. But what we can change is that we say, okay, what kind of feelings do I prefer to have in my mind? These are positive feelings. We all like to have more positive feelings than negative feelings. So what can I do in order to create the causes for positive feelings to arise in the mind? You know the answer to that? No, you know the answer to my question. So what are the causes that I need to create? What kind of actions do I need to do in order for it to become the cause of positive feelings? What? Cherishing others. Very good. Having compassion. And maybe loving kindness is what you mean? Yeah. What else can we do in order to create the causes for positive feelings to arise? Judging. But how? What? In a good way. What does it mean? What does it mean that we? Yeah. So we can look into that and try to deal with the reactions that we are having. But if feelings are coming from actions, and we have negative and positive feelings, what kind of actions lead to positive feelings? Virtuous actions. Yeah. Virtuous actions are actions that are beneficial actions, actions that do not harm others. And if we want to stop suffering from arising in the mind, we have to stop engaging in negative actions. Right? That's a very different way as the way that we deal with looking for happiness and freedom from suffering. Right? We follow our feelings. We follow what makes me go and do what makes you happy. Right? In a way, there is a truth in that. But the way that we are doing it at the moment, it's just following of attachment. Do what makes you happy. What would you like now? Oh, I want to go to the circus. Okay, let's go to the circus. Then you are happy. But how long does that happiness last? Right? You're in the circus, something happens that you don't like. And then mom has to take care of that. And so, yeah, it doesn't last, right? So we find happiness by following our feelings. And sometimes Tibetan lamas say, stop being so obsessed with your feelings. Feelings are a result. Just leave them being a result. Don't even worry about it. Sometimes we feel shitty, but it doesn't stop me. 1 minute. It doesn't stop me from creating positive actions. right? If I'm a nurse and I'm working in a hospital and I feel shitty because my husband was really unkind to me this morning, and I lash out to my patients, it's not going to create happiness. But if I can generate a mind that I still care for that person, even if I feel shitty, but I care for you and I do something that is good for you, I create karma for positive feelings to arise in the future. I maybe have a husband who is not so unpleasant to me. Right? This is how we change life, by changing our actions. And that is not a fast result. We also like fast results, right? I want to be happy right now. So this is why we grasp at things. But what if we think, it's like whatever is ripening now, whatever karma, I can't change that, but I'm going to focus on the future. And so I'm going to stop creating negative actions. I stop killing, I stop lying, I stop stealing, I stop engaging in a lot of gossip or harsh speech or divisive speech, or I stop doing all that. And then I try to practice the opposite of that. Happiness will definitely come. Happiness will definitely come. So at the moment, I like to drink this, but I don't like to drink that. And maybe I don't like to drink many, many, many things. But if we have a lot of positive karma, anything that I drink is going to make me happy. Anything. It's not dependent upon the thing anymore. It's just generating happiness in my mind. This is where we want to go. Right? But it cannot happen from today to tomorrow. We need to change our habits, and sometimes we first start with stopping engaging in negative actions of the body. And then we go to stopping the negative actions of the speech. And then we go slowly, slowly to the mind. And then we engage in the positive actions. But wherever you feel you have an affinity for certain actions, start there. Right, I'm already on the path. Sorry, I'm going to go back to the true cessation, but there was a question. Yes.
The feelings or pleasant and unpleasant experiences that are caused by the ripening of karma.
Yeah.
Are they the same feelings that are listed in the 5 aggregates? Form feelings?
Yes, that's the same feeling. Yeah. So when we talk about form, feeling, discrimination, composition of factors, and consciousness, which are the 5 aggregates, the feeling aggregate is the experience that we have. There are no other feelings than that. Yeah. Feeling and experience is the same. Yeah. 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 Independence of feelings, we discriminate. We say, I like it, I don't like it. And independence on that, we engage in virtuous actions, non-virtuous actions. So that is the composition of factors. So independence on the body, the feelings arise, and then we discriminate, and then we react, which are the composition of factors, and then there is consciousness. So there is a reason why we call these 5 aggregates, why they are chosen. Because they're very important in the whole experience of samsara. Anybody else? The truth of cessation. And if other questions come up, you can always put up your hand. Yeah, I might ask you to wait a little bit, Ma. So in Buddhism, we can say, is it possible to become free of suffering? Is it possible to become free of fear or any other type of suffering? And then Buddhism says, yes, definitely, definitely, because fear is not our nature. It's not in our nature. If we would fully develop our nature, we become Buddhas. We become fully enlightened beings. That is our true nature. And that mind that has developed its full potential. It is a mind that experiences loving kindness and compassion for each and every sentient being. Nobody is excluded from that. That is our nature. And His Holiness often talks about, sometimes we say, why is compassion our nature? And he says, look at how the mother and the child depend upon each other, depend for their survival upon compassion. Right? For the child to survive, it needs the compassion of the mother. It needs that when it is crying, that mom thinks, I want my child to be free of that suffering. So I go to my child and I try to help my child. Right? Without compassion, who cares about that crying baby? It's rude, no? We are shocked. Oh my God, how can you say that? Because it's not our nature to think like that. It is our nature to care, especially for that little innocent, vulnerable baby. Right? And sometimes I think babies are the most beautiful things, right? Most innocent, because that triggers our compassion. Right? It's so beautiful. You want to be close to that. You want it to stay so beautiful. You want it to be happy. You want it to, so it triggers our compassion. Without compassion, the child cannot survive. True? I mean, they have done research for that. If you give the child only milk but no compassion, the chance that the child dies is there. So we have the potential to become completely free of all suffering, which means not only the suffering, the pain that we have, the fears that we have, the unpleasantness that we experience, the discomfort that we experience, the dissatisfaction, but we can become free from what we call the all-pervasive compounded suffering, which is that reactivity that we have. If we see that that is actually the cause of our suffering, and that is based on believing in the self in the way it appears to us, then we can say, so if I can do something about that, I can become free of that suffering. True? So we have to go to that. That's the root, the holding on to the self in a way that it doesn't exist. So seeing the self for what it is really, that's blowing our mind. Then we become free of all suffering. And so and then we have to say, how do I get there? So we will talk about that. So then somebody might think, one time during teachings, I think I was in Chernobyl Institute, somebody asked, we are talking about loving kindness is the nature of the mind, we can love all sentient beings. So why is anger not the nature of the mind? How can we be sure that when we start working with the mind, it is really that loving kindness is the nature of the mind? How do we know? Why is not anger the nature of the mind? Right? And then we can go back to Christianity, where we are told, right, we are bad from the beginning, we are sinners from the beginning. So why can that not be true? And then that teacher said, if anger would be a valid mind, we would be able to generate anger towards all sentient beings, all the time. So is that possible? How long can we be angry? Have you ever tried? I tried. I thought I must be very bad. I must be very ultra. How long can we be angry? At a certain point, it stops, no? We drop it. We drop it. The fact that we need to drop it, or that we drop it, means that we are not that. If it was natural, we cannot drop it because it's natural. If it was our nature, we could generate it all the time because it's our nature. We can do that effortlessly. But we cannot. But becoming a Buddha can effortlessly, he doesn't have to generate it. Loving kindness is generated in his or her mind all the time, effortlessly, because it's our nature. Right? So we can see from what sentient beings, certain beings have developed in the mind, and we have been exposed to them, right? If we have seen His Holiness the Dalai Lama or Lama Zopa Rinpoche or other holy beings, we can see that their mind is in a place which is beyond these disturbing emotions. And then we see it's possible because there are beings who have done it. But is there one sentient being on this planet that is angry all the time? To all sentient beings? Right? Not even Trump. Not even just joking. Right? It's like you can think, well, he's really evil. Not even Hitler. Because they all love somebody, right? They have a wife, or they have a children, or they have a dog, or they love somebody. Right? So then you can see, so therefore anger is not the nature of a mind. So therefore we are not bad from the beginning. We are not, we are, I agree with, we are sinners from the beginning, what we say in Christianity, but in Christianity they don't talk about that underlying nature that is there, that we have or that we are not connected with, but it is there and we can fully develop that. Right? We don't hear that in Christianity. Not like that. Yeah. So that's the truth of cessation. And we had two big problems. One is that self-grasping mind, holding on to something, believing that something exists, while in actuality it doesn't exist like that, right? The self exists, but not in the way it appears to us. And we can counteract that by developing our wisdom mind. And then we have the self-cherishing mind, that reactive mind, that is constantly reacting with attachment or aversion and dependence upon the feelings that arise. And we counteract that by taking away its obsession with me wanting to be happy. And I transform that obsession of I want to be happy in I want everybody to become happy. Right? When we think about whatever we are doing, so what I find a very helpful question is if there is a problem and I see my self-grasping mind coming up and my self-cherishing mind and I want things to go my way, that I ask the question, what would be most beneficial for everyone that is involved? And I start focusing on that. For everyone involved. I want everyone involved to come out of this as good as possible. How can I contribute to that? That self-grasping is not there anymore in the same way. Right? It's not too difficult question. But we just have to turn the focus from me into everybody. In Buddhism, we say others. We change the focus from me to others. I don't know how that is for you. For me, others is always everybody except me. Right? It's a bit Christianity also. Everyone, you take care of everyone, but not of you. But in Buddhism, everyone means including you. Others means including you. Right? So maybe we have to phrase that a little bit different. So don't put yourself outside of that. You are included in that. By benefiting others, you need to see that you are benefiting yourself just as much. Well, we have often the feeling when I benefit others, I harm myself. True? Sometimes we benefit others, but not me. Yeah. So this is very important that we start benefiting others and include ourselves within that. Otherwise, you're going to be very unhappy and resentful. I did so much for others, and look at how I end up. I have nothing. Is that okay? So that's the truth of the cessation. It's like the suffering can cease, the fear can cease. And because of that, there is a way towards that. There are things that can be done towards that. So then the first thing that we can do is I'm skipping a bit, but that's okay. We're just going to go to the essence. So our problem is that fear arises in the mind, unpleasant feelings arise in the mind, and then we all have the tendency that we do not want to fully feel what is happening, so we suppress it, and we don't allow that feeling to fully arise. And we can do that by, what do we do so that we get rid of that feeling, so that we get away from that feeling? We distract ourselves. We can blame. We can self-medicate. We can drink. We can drink, we can smoke, we can eat, binge watching. So that we don't have to feel that. You know, the misery of eating too much chocolate is better than the misery that we are feeling inside, right? We replace that misery somehow. So one very powerful way of dealing with unpleasant feelings, including fear, is that we find a way that we can sit with it. And that we somehow create a condition or an environment for ourselves that we have the courage to fully feel it. So we actually have to say to ourselves, back off, stop reacting. Stop reacting and just feel what's going on. So we need to change, we have to bring our mind from maybe being in our thoughts and thinking all kinds of things and maybe running around. We have to say, what am I actually feeling? Right? And then just sitting and closing your eyes and really going to what do I feel? Where do I feel it? How does it feel? And then allow that feeling to fully arise. When we can do that, that feeling will naturally start to dissolve into the mind, and then it is gone. And when we do that, once the feeling is gone, we connect with something inside ourselves. I don't know, I always have the feeling I find these treasures, kind of knowledge about life, insight into the situation or into life itself. Something is there, a knowledge that you cannot find anywhere else. You can listen to many, many, many holy beings, but that knowledge in that way, you can only find that within yourself. If you dare to sit with the suffering. That's my experience. So in order to sit with the suffering, we need to generate a mind that wishes ourselves to be free of that suffering. The mind of compassion, right? So this is self-compassion. How do we do that self-compassion? Often when we suffer, what do we do? When we are afraid, when we judge ourselves. What else? We bury our head in the sand. We don't want to know about it. Maybe we deny. Maybe we dissociate. Maybe we beat ourselves up. How stupid are you that you have these unpleasant feelings, right? You made a mistake. You made a fault. That's wrong. You are wrong. You don't get it, right? We become a bit sometimes abusive towards ourselves. And it's very strange that behavior is our attempt to experience less suffering. So you think about that. It's coming from our aversion to what we are feeling. And the method that we have in order to get rid of that feeling is we beat ourselves up. And we think if I do that hard enough, the bad feeling will go. Is that true, what I'm saying? Can you see that? Maybe not everybody does that, but sometimes when we have bad feelings and we were little and we go to our parents, they might beat us because we have bad feelings or negative feelings or unpleasant feelings. We are crying, grow up, be a boy, be strong, Who's going to listen to you when you talk like that? Whatever your parents said, you will repeat that when we are an adult. We will give ourselves the same message. So you shut it down. So we need to identify that self-talk, that very unkind self-talk. It's like if a little child comes to you and it's crying, and you say, "Pooh," the child is not going to stop. We know that, right? Would you ever do that with a child if it comes to you? What do we say when a child comes crying? What do we do? You console the child. Mm-hmm. What else? You give them a hug. And a hug can be a way of consoling, no? What happens to our nerve system when we get a hug? It calms down. So when we are a lot of stress, we have unpleasant feelings arising, we have fear arising, we need something to calm down that nerve system. Right? And then when you have a good partner, it might be enough to go for a hug. I'm so afraid. But if he's also afraid and you both get afraid, then it's more difficult. Right? So how do I console myself when my nerve system is so agitated? So we need to find ways how to do that. Because if I cannot console myself, no, I do not want to look at these unpleasant feelings. I don't want to feel them. I can only feel them when I have the tools to console myself. True? It would otherwise be very cruel to have these feelings arising and you have no way that you can kind of soothe yourself while you go through that suffering. True? Have you ever thought about that? So how do we do that? So we have that unkind self-talk that we are maybe used to. And then we have that lack of consoling. Right? Unkind self-talk already agitates the mind even further. Right? We get more distressed, more overwhelmed. So we need to find a space in which we console ourselves and in which we speak to ourselves in a kind manner. Maybe like a mom would talk to her child. Maybe we have an ideal mom that is talking to us when we go through that. And then we can console ourselves. And when we can do that, we have the courage to let that feeling arise. And so when we meditate, we are in a space, right? And I'm just going to tell you how I do it because it's a work in progress and a learning, and maybe you have other ways of doing that. I had a very critical mother, so I grew up being very critical to myself. And so when I'm in the space with myself, that critical energy is there. So I need to pacify that energy, so that when I sit with myself, that energy around me is of the quality of loving kindness and compassion. So when I visualize that all this, when I feel it, is all loving kindness and compassion. So that whatever arises in it, I give myself permission to feel whatever I'm feeling. But when the feelings are very strong, I need to have a lot of loving kindness and compassion holding me. Right? So I think part of our mind is that critical voice. And that critical voice creates kind of our environment internally in which we experience. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So when I want that experience to happen and I want to create an environment that is full of loving kindness and compassion, I need to let go of that critical mind. I need to make it soft and gentle and open and allowing whatever suffering exists to arise, if it is the time for that to arise. And so when I then sit and meditate, I first visualize that space in which I am meditating, where normally the critical voice is or something else. And I make sure that that space feels safe, feels that I'm held within that space. So I'm holding the space for myself. Does that make sense? Only when I can hold that space for myself will that part of me that is distressed or there is that unpleasantness, does that feel safe enough to surface? Right? And so then when it surfaces, I try to stay connected with that. I stay mindful of that feeling. So when I practice self-compassion, I need mindfulness of the feelings that arise. I need to have kind self-talk. And then I need to have a full understanding that the suffering that I experience is a normal human experience. Normal in the sense that I'm not the only one who is experiencing this. When we suffer, we disconnect. I think the essence of suffering is disconnection. And when we disconnect, while we are suffering, we disconnect. We somehow start to have the feeling, oh, it's just me. It's only me. We are very alone in our suffering. And we have the feeling that what we are feeling is so weird, nobody else has that. It's just me. We don't think, oh, everybody has suffering like this. Do we? When we suffer, it's just me. I'm alone. You know, the suffering mind is a very narrow mind. It's contracted. It's a bit obsessed with itself. I'm sitting locked into my own mind. So when I connect with my mindfulness to that experience that I have, and then I give myself enough self-talk, kind self-talk, in order to be able to experience that, I remind myself that the suffering that is there is nothing weird in that. I share that with other human beings. Some people even go that far that they say it's just an experience. It is not you who is experiencing that. It is an experience that goes through you. So you don't, I am feeling that. No, there is a feeling arising in the mind that I has nothing to do with that. But to let the feeling arise, I think the I needs to step back, and instead we need to create a big space in which we are comfortable with whatever suffering arises. And I think that is what compassion means. We are comfortable with suffering that arises. Right? So when we suffer, we go to a doctor. They have done research. What is it that helps the patient? And what helps the patient most is the way that a doctor can connect with the patient and understand the suffering. That connection is where healing takes place. Right? Suffering means disconnection. Compassion means I want you to be free of suffering, so I connect with your suffering so that your suffering can dissipate and can dissolve. And then the suffering is gone. True? What happens when I talk about that? Does it help or? The mechanism of suffering, I don't know, it goes very deep, you know? It's like there is a feeling and we disconnect. The aversion disconnects. We want to disconnect. Well, the way to let suffering dissolve is when we connect. And the nature of suffering is that we don't want to have it. I don't want to have it. And then connection is the only thing that is going to help you. I don't want to have it. Too painful. Right? And sometimes we might be busy for years to be able to connect. And that's okay. You know, sometimes the suffering is so intense. But if every time we try to walk a little bit closer, connect a little bit more, have a little bit more, more compassion for ourselves, less judgment towards ourselves, more acceptance towards ourselves. Right? Then we're already doing the work. We're already doing the work. So when we start working on very deep levels, you know, I don't know. I thought, you know, Buddhism, you're just going to be. I grew up Catholic, so then you just develop the good, and you're going to be happy, right? Nobody told me, well, actually, you're going to dig into all the suffering, and everything that you ever experienced in this life and maybe past life is all going to surface, and you have to go through that in order to find your wisdom. Nobody told me that, nor would I think ever have gone the path if I had known that. But I do tell you that because I have done it and I'm still alive. And I know that it works when you go there, you know, it works. When you do that, it works. And I've tried many other ways, and I feel that is the only way that truly works. You know, we can cover up for a long time, we can distract ourselves for a long time, but if you really want to become free, that's the way to go. Unfortunately, it sounds like a bad news, but I think it's very good news, you know, when we focus on all the jewels that we're going to find that are buried underneath all that dirt that we feel we are holding on to. There's so many beautiful jewels there. We just have to clean it. And then they all come out and you think, oh my God, where's that coming from? But it was always there. We just couldn't see it. Do you feel you have the courage that you can do that? Or do you feel like, no, thank you, not for me? Have to check. Yes. Observing suffering is, you call it objective, but the suffering we experience, what we observe is in our mind, right? So I think it's very subjective, but you're not involved anymore. So when we have suffering and we have aversion arising in dependence on that suffering, and so we start running away from it, is not resolving the suffering. But when I can say, oh, what's that? I'm going to look at that. That is already the way to letting go of that suffering, right? That suffering can arise. I allow it to arise. I don't judge myself. I accept that it is there. So that I call that is already compassion. And then the compassion is even more that I have the wish to become free of that. So when before, I don't know why I'm saying what I'm saying, but I just go with it, right? So before I became a nun, I was a physiotherapist, and I worked with little children. And if you have 3 4-year-olds, you know, they get hurt, they fall, and they come. And then I would say, oh, what happened, you know? And I put my hand on it, and I said, you know what? Give it to me. Blow it through your knee into my hand. Just blow, blow, blow. They would do it within 2 minutes, gone, pain gone. Why? Not because I'm doing anything, but they, instead of withdrawing from their knee, right, with this aversion, I don't want to feel that pain, you go back. I go into the pain. Pain is gone. It's, I don't know, it's like we learn something about, and it is totally, the reality is totally opposite. When you burn yourself, you withdraw, right? So I go in it, and I put something on it that makes it really burn, and I'm going to feel it. Then within no time, it's gone. Even the skin doesn't get damaged in the way that when I withdraw. It's weird. You have to try this under your... But I like to experiment like that, you know, because we are doing actually the opposite of what heals. So what if I turn it around? So I sometimes try, and then I have certain experiences with that, yes. You can't wait to try it. Well, who knows? Who knows? You want to try?
Revolutionary particular pattern. So I've been doing exactly the same thing and trying to run away from a particular fear for a very long time.
Yes. Yes. To think, oh, it's never going to go away if I keep running. Yeah. Cool. It's fantastic. So what I want to do is I want to practice with you how to do that self-compassion, right? Because I think that is can be very helpful just to have a little experience on how to do that, right? So I would like to do that.
No, that's when the teachings around removing, if you're having habitual action that is causing suffering, but then it is also advisable to remove yourself from that.
Can you give me an example?
Oh,
Can you give him the mic?
something that's causing your mind to react in a negative way. Something that's causing your mind or yourself to react in a negative way, if you have an opportunity to remove yourself to try and
from the situation,
yeah,
or
that sounds contradictory to what you're saying about trying to go towards it.
yeah. So I think I understand what you mean. So when we, for instance, have a strong addiction, then the attachment is so strong to work with, and the feeling is maybe so buried under the attachment that we even can't see it. So then in order to create a situation in which we can start seeing the attachment and the feeling that is there, we first remove ourselves from the object, right? To create some space so that we're not so triggered. But that's not the end, right? Then at a certain point, you're gonna look for that. So what I'm talking about is that something happens, right? And you're suffering. So what do you do? What is your initial reaction, and how can you turn that around, right? So when you see mothers with a little children, oh, I shouldn't say that. You can see how children, they challenge their mothers to get what they want, right? And then the mother thinks, if I give him today what he wants, he will be quiet. But we all know that you set yourself up for bigger problems when you do that, right? And so we are the same. Yeah. And so when that happens, when there is a strong attachment to something that you want, then you might want to try to distract the person from what they are so attached to. So I think distracting from something that you really want in order to decrease the attachment, I think that's fine. Distracting yourself from unpleasant feelings or from the aversion to unpleasant feelings, that's never going to lead to a solution. Right? So we have to become skillful. It's not that one advice you can put on all the situations. Yes. You need to turn it on. Did you? Maybe you.
Fear is something that has been part of your life, and your habitual pattern has been aversion because it's too painful, too frightening to go there. What about the mind in this? We're talking about, sitting with the feeling and you're carrying it in your body. But it's also about the mind, and I'm wondering about, in addition to sitting with the feeling, just recognising, because your mind is throwing this up again, sometimes I say to my mind, look, I know you're trying to protect me. This is what we've always done, but I don't need to do that anymore because this is not happening, and I'm okay and I'm safe. Could you just comment about how do those two things work together? Or
yeah, you are giving an antidote to another part of the chain reaction. So when unpleasant feelings arise, we have this chain reaction happening. And so sitting with the experience is going to the beginning of that chain reaction, while commenting on your reaction to that feeling is what comes after. And so yes, we have feelings arising, and we are conditioned in a way that we might become too protective, and it becomes not beneficial. It's not beneficial anymore at a certain age to have these reactions, right? So then you can say that to yourself. Thank you. You have helped me a lot. But at the moment, I'm safe, and you can stop doing that. Right? You can say that and see if it works, right? And sometimes that is enough. And so then you are deprogramming your nerve system so that when something happens, you do not go full into the reaction as before.
because I think we carry a lot of this in our bodies, and if we don't allow ourselves to feel it, it goes somewhere else and often can come out in physical illness.
Yes.
So this sort of approach, do you think, can help our bodies as well and our functioning of our bodies?
I think so. So it is not the feeling that is the problem, right? It is the reaction that is the problem. Yeah. Christina got a...
I just want to share my experience that I have many years ago. I fell and I break my arm, but I didn't know that was broken. I just went home and I stayed there for 2 days with my arm broken. So the second night I was with a terrible pain, and I say, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I was nearly to cry. I couldn't bear the pain anymore. So, and I remember the tunneling. And I say, what about if I do some breathing and take the pain from other people and convert it? So as soon as I start to do that, my pain disappear. Because I think that when you do the breathing, you accept the pain from other people. So you accept also your pain. So, and I think that was a excellent experience.
Right. So what happened to your broken arm?
So I had to go to the doctor next
Yes.
day. And I, just in case I don't, the tunneling don't help me anymore.
So we need to heal on the right level,
Yes.
right? So when we break our arm, tongue lang is not to fix the arm, right? Yeah. I actually wonder, you should, what I would wonder if I were you is how come that I deny my own pain so much? That I pretend nothing has happened, you know, it's just me who's feeling pain, right? You did not look into what was actually happening. You could not be there for yourself in that experience, right? So I would be curious to that part of you. That. What? Yes, so I would question that in my own mind. That might help you to connect with other parts in your mind.
So my question is on the mind and the thought, the feeling. So we're talking about the feeling arising and the mind having a reaction to the feeling. But in Dharma, isn't the feeling and the thought, even though they look like it's spontaneously arising, doesn't it all come from the thought first? Isn't it that I can't have fear unless I've had a fearful thought?
You think the thoughts are arising, the feelings are arising from thoughts?
Yes. Are you saying, according to the Dharma, feelings arise spontaneously without the mind?
They are mind. Feelings are mind itself.
Mind?
Feeling is mind. Feeling is a function of the mind.
Okay.
And so they arise due to conditions, right? So I say that the feeling is the result of our actions. It is the karma ripening. But that karma ripens under certain conditions. And thoughts can be a condition for karma to ripen, for certain feelings to arise.
So does the thought, though, have to come before you have a feeling?
I don't, I mean, things can happen, no?
According to Dharma, from the study, would they say that there has to be a thought before the feeling can arise?
I've never heard that.
Okay. No, that's good. That's why I want to clarify.
If we look into the
that,
12 links of dependent arising,
yeah.
then before the feeling is the contact. So for a feeling to arise, we need to make contact with an object.
Yeah.
The contact with the object, whether that is visual or auditive or any of the senses, the contact is what is the condition for the feeling to arise. And that can be a thought.
Sure, but it can also
But it can also be a sensory
sensory thing.
connection
Sure.
between object and sensory consciousness.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That clarifies things.
Yeah. All right, one more, and then we do a little meditation. Or we do the meditation after the break, maybe. What time is the break? In 10 minutes?
Thank you. Is that on? Yeah.
Yes, it is on.
So I like what you said about defining a safe space and doing the kind talk and all that sort of thing. But I just wonder whether to add to that to help with the what it's trying to achieve, would be to somehow convince yourself that this feeling that you're experiencing isn't going to last. So, and even in a perverse way, you could wish being present with a feeling that it lasts forever, that it keeps lasting, but you find that eventually it does just diminish. Because I think if you have confidence that the unpleasantness that you're feeling isn't going to last, it helps you to get through it. So
Yeah.
would that be?
Yeah,
correct?
that can be that we think about, reflect on impermanence, and that it is just a temporary thing, and that it can help you to get through. But when you were saying it, I thought you can also even think like, what if that is going to be there forever? I better become friends with that than keep fighting it. And so what if I assume it's going to be there forever? And I'm going to be with it in a way that I'm okay with that. That can also help you to connect with it, you know, if there is a lot of resistance of going there. So whatever helps you to make that connection, whatever you can say to yourself so that you have the courage to make that connection, I think, I in general, I would say fine, right? Because the main thing is that we make that connection and that we allow the feeling to arise. How we do that, I don't care. I think we can be very creative in that. And I would allow anything that, anything that helps, you know? Yeah. So that's a good reflection, right? We can think like this, we can think like that. Maybe there are other ways of thinking that are going to be helpful. So when we so maybe after the break we'll sit. How much we have? 9 minutes, say, or 10 minutes? 1:45. Okay. 6 minutes. My clock is wrong then. That's okay. Doesn't matter. Doesn't really matter. I just don't want. I want us to have a nice meditation, you know, and not to have to rush that. So when you think about practicing self-compassion and practicing in a way that you I mean, it took me many years to discover this background noise in my mind that did not allow me to be kind to myself. You know, it's like it's so subtle and so in the background, and you're so used to it and you're so habituated to it. I didn't even see it. And people would say, you're so critical of yourself and you have so high standards to yourself. And I thought, yeah, of course I have, you know. But I didn't see any fault in that, you know, until, so it took a long time to feel like, oh my God, I'm actually really harsh to myself. I never felt that. Right? So if, I don't know if that applies to any of you, but to find that attitude that we have towards our own negative feelings, that voice that is commenting on that, you know, it's very important that we find that, because we want to work with that voice. We don't want to, we want to work with that. And we don't want to shut it up, but we want to give it a different voice. We want to transform it in a different voice. Right? So we never say, don't say that to yourself. We say, can you say that differently to yourself? Right? So anything that we say don't, there is this aversion, there is this pushing, there is this. So how can I do that differently? So when I talk about that, what happens, what does it do to you? Does it give you information that you can do something with? Can you recognize it in yourself? Oh, I am actually doing that. Oh, that is the one that I should be, you know, do that differently. Do you need more information on that? Or do you feel like I have enough information and we're going to try that after the break? Yes. Yes.
Is there a specific section of the Lam Rim that this particular technique or teaching would fall under?
I think, I mean, yes, but I think we can't see it. It is there, but we can't see it. So the wish to be free of suffering is what is self-compassion, right? True? So compassion means the wish for others to be free of suffering. Self-compassion is the wish for oneself to be free of suffering. So what do we do in the Lam Rim when we say, I want to be free of suffering?
We practice the Lam Rim.
Yeah, but
starting
which part
from-
of it?
creating positive karma.
Creating positive
not-
karma, and
yeah,
before we create positive karma, we stop creating negative karma.
yeah,
So if I sincerely have the wish to be free of suffering, I should stop creating negative karma. Right? So I need to understand what that means, creating
Yes.
negative karma. It's not just the non-virtuous actions, but it is all the delusions create negative karma. So we have to address them. And then we say we're going to create positive actions, virtuous actions.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And then the third one is that we need to realize the nature of reality to become really free of suffering. We
Yes.
need to realize emptiness. And in order to be able to do that, I need to at least strive for liberation for myself. But even better than that, I'm going to strive for enlightenment for all sentient beings. Right? Because that is the only way that we can go in which we need to realize the nature of reality, in which we need to realize emptiness. Emptiness is what really takes all the suffering away and makes us happy.
yeah.
Right?
It's-
So the middle scope practitioner, all the practices related to that are focused upon finding happiness for oneself and finding freedom from suffering for oneself. So that in the Lam Rim is the self-compassion. Okay?
Yes.
But then on top of that, I think that we need to do that we miss some prerequisites to even start the Lam Rim. And these prerequisites, we can develop them with practicing self-compassion in this way. That's what we're going to try after the break. So for instance, one prerequisite, so one thing that we do, what I think we do, and what maybe is connected to the Christian world, I think, but you can tell me whatever you want, whatever you feel about that, right? So in Christianity, we have good and bad. You should never be bad, but only be good, right? There is already a suppression. This is wrong, and this is what we like. We don't want to see this part of you. We only want to see this part of you, right? So part of our qualities, or the potential for qualities, is pushed aside as something that is not wanted, something that is not serving our purpose. True? So that is how good and bad in our world. In Buddhism, good and bad means, is it serving my purpose? So whatever is serving my purpose of enlightenment are positive actions. And whatever is not serving my purpose are negative actions.
Yep.
I don't want to get rid of that part of me. I want to keep all my energy to become enlightened, but I'm going to transform the direction of that energy. So I'm going to change my actions. I'm not going to, sometimes I have the feeling, I don't know, when I grow up, I have to amputate part of me because that's not good. And then I meet Buddhism and I think if I practice hard enough, then maybe the good part becomes so big that bad part somehow dissolves. But actually we need to take all the parts, and they all have the potential to become a Buddha. They're all good in essence. But it is the way that we direct these parts that makes them not beneficial for what we actually want to achieve. And that idea about good and bad, we apply that to our own psychic. And so then when we start practicing Buddhism with that idea about good and bad, we are practicing Buddhism as Christians. And we never go beyond, we never really understand what Buddhism actually means. We never understand that everything inside us, there is the pure nature. There is an inner goodness that can take shape in all kinds of ways, but that inner goodness is still the essence of everything. It's just that some things, the way it manifests, is not so beneficial for developing that goodness further. But I don't have to amputate it. I don't have to get rid of it. I just redirect it. And so then we can get to a place where we feel all aspects of me are good. All aspects of me are fine. There's nothing wrong with me. Who thinks there's something wrong with you? We all have. Many people. No, not so many here. So there's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with. So that wrong, we have an attitude towards that part that we believe is wrong. We need to. What do we need to do with that? That part, what is wrong in you? What do you try to do with that part that is wrong in you? You have the mic.
Oh, sorry.
No, you keep the mic. Tell me.
Damn it.
What do you need to do with that part that is wrong in you?
It's a good question. I would have said, I don't know. Yeah, get rid of it.
Get rid of it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure many people have this, right? It's like we might even feel ashamed of it. And I'm not going to talk about it. And I'm not going to show anyone. And we're going to hide it. And we're going to, all that. We all do that, right? But in Buddhism, we say, look what I have. And then I'm so scared that nobody's going to like me, right? That's another one that we're having. Oh my God, if I show everything, nobody's going to like me. But what if I have the courage to see that all the bits of me have the potential to become good qualities? And that is only dependent upon how I direct my mind and how I direct my actions. And I think embracing each part of us is a prerequisite to be able to understand Buddhism in a proper way.
Cool.
Cool.
Thank you.
This is so essential, Yeah. Yeah. I try to get rid of my negative aspects in many ways, and it doesn't happen. You create so much suffering internally by doing that. So then you get in a crisis and you cry for a month. All right.